In this presentation, I will discuss our Lesson 3, which is Understanding Individual Behavior. Again, as a review, in Area 1, we are concerned with individuals, which is the fundamental building block of any organization. Area 2, we will begin to look at how more than one individual organizes to form a group, and how that groups work together, and sometimes how we can resolve conflict when necessary. Area 3, we will discuss leadership. And then finally, Area 4, we will look at organizational theories. Again, as another review, keep in mind that all of us in an organization find ourselves there because we were attracted to that type of an organization. That type of organization typically selects people that are like the members of that organization. And the few mistakes that an organization makes, it tries to move people out who either are unlike the current members or who are unwilling to adapt to become like the new members. And we'll discuss that more when we get to socialization in Area 2. Individuals are, as we know, are all different. And personality is one of the primary forces that creates that difference. All of us have different personalities. Our personality affects how we perceive things. It affects the abilities and skills we're able to develop in life. It affects how we work and what our attitudes are in the workplace. And of course, those perceptions that we form based on our personalities, those also influence work behavior, as do obviously abilities and skills and attitudes. So personality is a very important factor in influencing what happens in the workplace. Personality is relatively stable. Relatively stable is the key phrase there. It's a set of feelings or behaviors that forms by some genetic and some environmental factors. Again, part of it is hereditary. Culture influences personality, as do our family relationships. Our early relationships with our families strongly influence personality. And social class and other group membership forces affect our personality as we grow, and those personality factors become more stable. We look at the big five: extroversion, emotional stability, agreeableness, conscientiousness, openness to experience. And we'll complete a short instrument in class. And again, this instrument is just simply a way to help us understand these personality factors by looking at the instrument items that help us turn those concepts into behaviors or beliefs or thoughts that we might have. Extroversion is relatively stable over a period of time, and it's the personality factor that influences the extent to which we will want to interact with other people. Obviously, the reverse of that, or the converse of that, is introversion. Conscientiousness is the factor that influences how strongly we work towards goals, how committed we are to a given organization. Agreeableness is the extent to which we want to get along with others, agree with others, please others. And openness to new experience is the extent to which we want to learn new things, have new experiences, meet new people. Now, all three of these tend to increase over a lifetime. We become conscientious. We tend to want to get along more the older we get in life. And we tend to also open up to new experiences as we mature in life. Emotional stability, neuroticism, tends to decrease over a lifetime. If someone is not pathologically neurotic, those factors in our personality tend to decrease over a lifetime. Another concept that is important to understand is the concept of locus of control. And that's the extent to which a person believes that he or she is able to control his or her life course or outcomes in life. A strong internal locus of control is a set of beliefs that you are able to control or at least significantly influence your outcomes in life. An external locus of control indicates that a person believes that he or she has very little influence over their life outcomes or the course of their life, and that they're just flow along and are influenced greatly by other events. Self-efficacy is a concept that relates to our beliefs concerning our competencies and abilities. There's generalized self-efficacy, and then we can examine self-efficacy for any given set of competencies or abilities. But to a certain extent, we know that our ability to perform is based upon our belief that we can perform. We've probably all known people who we thought could perform, or had at previous times demonstrated their ability to perform, but for whatever reason come to believe that they cannot. And those beliefs are learned. One of the purposes of training or education is to increase self-efficacy. And again, generalized self-efficacy is our belief that we're able to learn and effectively develop new skills or competencies. And again, that's obviously related to performance, learning and achievement, and adaptability. People with high levels of generalized self-efficacy tend to perform better in life, tend to rise higher in organizations, tend to be able to learn new skills, and in general are able to perform well in a variety of settings, not just in the workplace, socially, emotionally, interpersonally as well. Ability and skill. We talk about, and we discussed a bit about job descriptions, which describe knowledge, skill, and ability. A skill is a learned talent that you acquire, and ability is the talent to perform a mental or physical task. So these are very critical in our workplace, and again are strongly influenced by personality, by locus of control, and by self-efficacy, both specific to a given task or skill, and generalized self-efficacy as well. Work behaviors are the outcomes, or strongly influenced by these personality factors and these other sets of beliefs we've discussed. Productivity is the amount of effective effort. How much is a person willing to commit and work in the workplace? And then creativity is those adaptive behaviors. To what extent are people able to be creative and adapt to changing circumstances? And then performance. Performance overall is organizationally or professionally defined. And it incorporates concepts of both quantity and or quality. As we've discussed, you can have a lot of outputs, but they may not achieve much of an outcome. So those two things have to be balanced. Attitudes, and we probably all have heard discussions or describe people as having a bad attitude. Attitudes determine behavior. It's a mental state or readiness, and it's learned and organized through experience. And the most probably one of the most significant attitudes that we can describe in the workplace is that of job satisfaction. And there's a concept of global, in other words, just kind of our general overall sense of our level of satisfaction. And then there are various facets related to the workplace that we also have some concept of our level of satisfaction. Pay, the work itself, opportunities, our satisfaction with our supervisor, coworker, work conditions, job security. So each of those facets influence our global or overall concept of satisfaction in the workplace. Not surprisingly, job satisfaction and job performance are correlated, although only moderately, because other factors influence that. The social sciences haven't quite been able to tease out just what the causal relationship is. That job satisfaction may be the causal factor of high job performance. But also there are those who believe that job performance, that if we do well, we're more highly satisfied in the workplace. And then there are some who believe that job satisfaction influences job performance, but it's moderated by perceived equity. And actually our next lesson that we'll discuss is the equity theory of motivation. Job performance, again, is a concept related to quantity and quality of work, but the concept that we must also probably more clearly define for people in an organization is just what is the minimal level of quantity and quality that's acceptable, and sometimes we don't make that clear. Another form of job performance, which has a fancy name of organizational citizenship behaviors, is essentially the extent to which a person will go beyond what is minimally expected. So, in many organizations, the better performers are people who are engaging in organizational citizenship behaviors, because the minimally accepted level of performance is relatively low. We all perceive the conditions in which we work, the things we're confronted with in the workplace, and these are influenced by our cognitive processes. We select what we're going to pay attention to in the world, and we organize our perceptions to give meaning to our world. The purpose is to make sense of our environment. All of us as humans want to make sense and understand. And again, we engage in what's called perceptual grouping, and these are a number of shortcuts, essentially, because we can't pay attention to everything, and all of our senses, 5 senses, are continually bombarded by stimuli. So our mind has created shortcuts. Stereotyping is a shortcut. It may or may not be an accurate stereotype, but it's a shortcut. Selective and divided attention. Under given circumstances, we focus on a given thing that or matter or object or action that's most important to us, which explains why officers involved in deadly confrontations at night tend to have auditory exclusion, because the primary limiting factor of darkness is vision. So our mind tries to grab as much of our visual image as possible, and why in daylight deadly confrontations people describe tunnel vision and distorted sounds because of the way we try to bring in as much sound as we possibly can. The halo effect is where we tend to pay attention to more recent events, and again we all tend to define the world as to whether or not people are like us, and if they look like us, or they sound like us, or they dress like us, then we tend to think they're like us when we know that may not necessarily be the case. Situations obviously influence what we perceive, and then our needs and desires. Again, your needs are acutely evident in deadly confrontations, and so those strongly influence what we perceive in the world. We're going to discuss attribution theory, and this is the theory that we're going to apply to a case study. Attribution theory is a theory about how we interpret the events around us, and essentially how we take shortcuts and how we don't use rational factors sometimes. The obvious outcome should be that we use rational factors and be aware of our biases or shortcomings. The fundamental attribution error is pretty simple. It's the tendency of an observer to overestimate internal factors and underestimate external factors. So when we're looking at someone else's performance, we tend to underestimate the circumstances the individual finds themselves in, and we tend to overrate or give greater weight to internal factors. The actor-observer bias is just the opposite of that. That we underestimate internal factors and overestimate external factors. And that's also another form of another bias that we call self-serving. In that, when we perform well, we tend to believe that it's because we do well. That we're smart, we're strong, we're fast, we're skilled, whatever the case may be. But if we failed, then we tend to believe that it was because of external factors rather than an internal failure. Negative outcome bias is a bias where we have a tendency to deal more harshly when outcomes are bad or more leniently when outcomes are good. Kind of the no harm, no foul. If there's no significant public outcry about something, or there's not bad publicity, then we tend to perhaps not deal with a failure as harshly. Another bias is the apology effect, we sometimes even formalize that in our disciplinary processes, where we're looking for people to admit they're wrong. Which we certainly want people to recognize their failures, but we as leaders can also be taken advantage of. People can apologize and be insincere and simply do that in order to get us to be more lenient. Finally, we want to use rational factors. We should use rational factors when we assess someone's performance. The first rational factor we want to look at is distinctiveness. Does the person behave in the same manner in other circumstances? If this is an employee who typically performs well in a variety of circumstances, then we should look at the distinctiveness of this given poor performance and consider whether or not it was an individual failure or a failure due to external circumstances. Consistency is another rational factor, where we want to look at how that person behaves in similar circumstances. So, if you've got an officer, let's say, who's involved in an accident, has been an officer for 20 years, never been involved in an accident, well, over 20 years of driving a police car and never been involved in an accident, that would seem to indicate that the individual's pretty capable. The factor that we look at is consensus. How do other people perform in this given circumstance or this given task? If everybody's performing poorly, then perhaps the external circumstances are the factors that are creating poor performance rather than a given individual. And again, to reemphasize, the primary thing that we want to do as a leader when we evaluate someone's performance is we want to use rational factors of distinctiveness, consistency, and consensus, and we want to be aware of our biases that we have as humans. We don't want to be overly influenced by the apology effect. We don't want to be overly influenced by whether there was significant harm or not significant harm or bad outcomes in the circumstance. We want people to be aware of the self-serving bias so that individuals can more objectively evaluate their own performance. And we don't want to commit the fundamental attributional error that failures are always entirely an individual failure and are not influenced by external events.